interesting part is that I always land up having these post-lunch, panels. But with this kind of speakers I have, I'm in safe hands all the time. So I think we have a very interesting topic at hand, something which, in many debates that we talk about how India can achieve, what India can do better. I think this is the fountain. It all starts here at the elementary level, and I think the early years are truly foundational. Needless to tell you all, you know it. But how are we practicing it right? What are the stories in your institutions? I think we'll hear that as we progress in this panel. We have plenty of time. We have 1 hour. So I would love to have questions towards the end of the panel to make it more participatory. Let me start my first question to the very next speaker who is next to me. Uh, Tell me if Khusboo, you have to kind of explain how can educators ensure that play remains central to early learning while balancing academic expectation, especially of Indian parents that we know of.
Yeah, so that's a very beautiful question, and I would really love to address it because I come from a small town like Patna, Bihar, and parents still have high expectation from the kids at this age. Ma'am, like, itne marks kyun aaye? Actually, like, we do not give markings, we do not mark things, but they're like, ma'am, my child knows this and he has not answered. Yeah, let us know before you take test. These are not the practices I would like to follow. We just have a grading system. Okay, the child did fairly well, which need improvement, and that is between the educators and the parents. At this age, the child is not aware. It's the parent and the educators who has to play a role. Now coming to the play-based learning. Why play is important is it makes a child happy, and a happy child learns more. A happy person performs better any time in their life, and I believe even goes right for the child, especially it's right for the child that a happy child learns more. So now starting with, I'll just cite you an example from my personal experience. I started my education from grade 1 back then to be part of a reputed school, and I remember my class teacher being very strict with a long ruler in her hand. The very sight of her would scare me, and the moment I would reach the school gate, tears would roll down my eyes, and I would complain about stomachache or other ailments to avoid being part of the school. I was trying to shut down the outer world. I was showing signs of fear, anxiety, sadness, which nobody could spot back then because people were not that aware. So once I started school, I had this, and on contrary, my second grade teacher was very loving, and I started liking my school again. So this is a very good, this example or this personal experience somehow taught me one thing, that when I started my school, I was like, I would ensure that every child in my school needs to be happy. They are willing to be part of my school. They wish to come to the school. And that's the biggest achievement I could have at this age, for the kids of this age, that leaving behind, when they come to my school, they have left behind their families, they have left behind the cuddles of their mothers, and then suddenly stepped into a new world. This is an insecure, they are insecure about this world, they're skeptical about the world. It's me, my educators, would provide them a play-based learning environment, which they find fun and exciting. It's our love and care which will which will make them willing to be part of this new world of theirs. So that is why I believe play-based learning is very, very important.
I think we have come a long way now. I think we're more emotional to our responses, and there's, of course, a lot of awareness in that. But I want to bring in Miss Bhimwal here and get to know her perspective on how Pathways is nurturing, keeping it central the play-based learning to its pedagogy.
Honestly, I really, really empathize with the parents. And why so? Because there is so much of evolution and rapid evolution in the education. all schools are, nurturing their own different beliefs. There is so much of, choices available in terms of which school they would like their child to go to. So I think the very first springboard for the parents to come on board is for them to align with the school's vision. What does the school believe? And that's very important because I think that's one springboard to get parents completely on board with the vision and the mission of the school and the beliefs of the school where play pedagogy is concerned. And for that, I think the teachers also need to be very aware of research and the practices so that they can communicate the same to the parents. And when the parents see that kind of, reassurance or a strong belief coming forth from the teacher, then it's a very easy buy-in for parents to really understand what the school believes in terms of play pedagogy. And definitely in the early years, play is central to all learning. Play is not when the teachers, just can sit back on their chairs and relax because children are at play. Play also needs a lot of thoughtful planning because that's where you're working with learner variability. That's where you're understanding how children are thinking, how they're responding, how can you build extensions to their skills in terms of social development, emotional development. So it requires a lot of planning, double the effort, and for the effort to go in and have, impactful outcomes, it needs a lot of teacher training. It needs, teachers to be really well informed about the research, which is very, very central to childhood education. And Pathways really believes in training the teachers, in these philosophies, whether it's regio, whether it's neuroscience, so that you can bring those informed practices into your classroom. And it's easy then for you to share these with the parents and for parents to believe that, yes, my child is in the right learning environment.
It's more thoughtful. There's a lot of thought in crafting that play environment than the play itself is. Mr. Agrawal, what is the Hello Kids story of this balance between play and academic expectations? How do you balance that?
Thank you for giving me this question, Amin, onto this. Friends, as he said, even I started my schooling from grade 1, right? And there was no thought process of play group or a nursery, LKG, UKG. I have never seen it. And coming back to the same academic part of it or a Hello Kids part of it, the philosophy maybe.
Can I request you keep the mic closer?
Yes. So, if you see me as a student, let me come back to you with my own experience. I was really not at all good on my academics. If you see my height also, my teacher used to make me sit at the back, that you have got this height and you have to be there. And never got a chance also that my teacher has got time to ask me, Pritam, samajh mein aaya nahi aaya aapko? So coming from that background, when we were not into a preschool, we were not good into academics, and whatever I think I have learned in the life, it's all because of traveling or because of whatever I played during my life. Never went to a school without a cricket bat in hand, it was my life. तो हमें वो खाली पीरियड दिखता था तो हम खेलने जाते थे. So same thing, we always tried that. As he said, and the first question from your side is, this is a small child who is 1.5, 2 years coming out of their easy, safe environment for the first time. And you want to make them sit in a table or a chair and do something on a board or ask them to write something? Sorry, they are not going to do this. They don't have an agenda of the day. How you have a get-up agenda, meet someone, call someone, do something. They do not have an agenda. The brain is fully empty and they will do whatever they see in front of them. And the preschool, if you go there, it is all colorful world with lot of toys, lot of things in place, and he has to play. This is how the park has been meant. And that 2.5 year child who is really coming out, if you are making them force that nahi aapko baithna hai, aapko padhna hai, aapko yahi karna hai, he won't come next day to you. And as you have created the environment, let the child be a child till the time he is your child itself. Even I am at 40, for my parents, I will always be a child itself, right? So if you are talking about this child who is coming to your school for the first time, he will see that, am I comfortable in this space? And in that learning process, as my colleagues has already explained it to you all, that he is looking for a comfort zone. If he is comfortable with one friend out of 50, 60, 100, or out of 12 in the class, he is comfortable playing for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Even this child go to a party or some unknown spaces, if he gets one friend without speaking to the same child, without speaking to the other child, they start playing for hours. They don't know each of their names also, but they start playing for 2, 3 hours. What is this nature? Nature is the child who is not having an agenda. He wants to play, he wants to move, he wants to explore, he wants to go to the new spaces, he wants to see new things. If you take the same child to a toy shop, right, he will pick up something. As soon as you enter, he'll pick up a toy. As soon as he'll move 2 steps forward, he will leave the first one, he'll pick up the second one. So even the attention span, even the deciding, he is not ready for all this. So we at Hello Kids or any other preschool, I think we nurture the child's interest. How, what, when, and how he'll be learning with my learning goals. How he'll be understanding the spaces, how he'll understand the people, how he'll understand the friend. And at the bottom, either it is a rural places, we have schools into rural places where parents do not understand this play even today. We take a lot of hard work to make them understand, मैडम उसको खेलने दो. अगर वो 2-4 घंटा खेल के भी चला जाएगा ना, आप देख लेना 1 साल के बाद, he is really speaking up. So I understand that you have to give that space to that child.
Exactly. I think then you guys are being more psychologists here, then. I want to bring in Ms. Bahuguna for her initial comment on the same ensuring a play-based learning culture. How do you ensure it happens in your institutions?
So thank you so much. And I think after listening to everybody, I think I would echo the same sentiments. But before that, I would like to just, share that why should we take learning different? Like, what is play? What is our understanding of play? When the child plays, does he not learn? And what is learning all about? Learning is all about when the child is discovering something, exploring something, making some meaning out of whatever the child is doing. So it is very, very integral to learning. So play, because that's the best way a child can perform. So we dovetail so for us, play is learning. It's not, you don't have to go that extra mile. Yeah, you have to go that extra mile to orchestrate the lessons, to create lesson plans for the teachers, so that whatever the child is doing in the class looks like a play for the child, but the teacher knows what the child would be learning at the end of it. So it could be a free play, it could be a structured play, it could be, because the child knows no other way. You cannot make a child do something what the adults do. So play has to be, the learning has to be dovetailed on play, and in play, the child learns all the basic skills and also the life skills that we have in our syllabi, what we want the child to do, and prepare the child for later life. Parents are the big, if I say, I think what ma'am shared also earlier, that you empathize with the parents because they come out of ignorance. They really don't know. According to them, they try to evaluate today's education with what they have done. And half of them would not have gone into preschools, like what our colleagues also shared. So they, according to them, learning is what is being written, what is being assessed. So for them, they have the same expectations from the schools and the preschools. And preschool, they feel the child needs to just get ready for formal schools. And we are running about 900 preschools pan-India. And we have a huge challenge of addressing and on aligning the parents. In fact, now, I've been listening to all the panel since morning, and I realized that everybody is so aware. Educators are so aware. Most unaware community is the parent, and but if you look at because they need to their expectations from the preschools are very different.
Majority, let's say, that is their first child, and they have really not understood that cycle of learning, right? So the expectation is going back to that academics only.
So if in a place like Patna, for example, how does this work? I mean, this culture of preschools, are parents really open to that? I mean, do they expect, are they seeing that as learning, or are they not really? You have to make them understand.
We have to make them understand a lot. Honestly, when they come, they actually say these lines to me. मैम खेलने आएगा फिर इतना चार्जेस क्यों है? वो तो सिर्फ 1 घंटा खेल के जाएगा. उसकी आदत बना रहे हैं ताकि वो बड़े स्कूल में जा सके. एक अच्छे स्कूल में एडमिशन हो जाए, उसके लिए इंटरव्यू के लिए प्रिपेयर करा दीजिएगा. I just got a call yesterday. The child is in some other preschool. She wants to come for 1 month to my school कि आपका स्कूल अच्छा है, बड़े स्कूल के लिए प्रिपेयर करा दीजिएगा. I was like, is it for real? Am I really listening to it? Apart from being ignorant is one thing, but even after learning things, still not applying it to your own child because you have expectation that my child in every field will excel or will be better than other child. And this feeling is the only reason that most of the parents are still not accepting the play-based learning, because somehow it's not about their child. It's about the comparison of their child to the other kids around. Madam, वो तो लिखने लगा है. मैंने कहा मैंने नर्सरी में अभी लिखना नहीं सिखाया, तो कब सिखाइएगा? So these all are like lines that I get to hear every day. I have to talk, I have to counsel them in every PTM, and this is what I'm surprised at, because it's not about not knowing. There are ample amount of now online research and everything which they are attending, which they know, because everything else they are aware of. So why, when it comes to academic, they want to rush their kids when this could be done? Even writing, there's an age for writing. Even their bone do not develop, the kids, their bone do not develop, and then structurally it gets damaged if we start very early on writing. But my parents back in Patna, as you said, as early as in playgroup, they will expect kids to write, and which we cannot introduce. Knowing things, we cannot. And they're like, yeah, ma'am, I know इनको खेलना चाहिए, which is good, खेलते हैं, लेकिन लिखेंगे कब? Is a term that I get to hear, line I get to hear. So yeah, it is very difficult to implement, I would
If I
say.
may just preschools, because we are only preschools, and then they have to take admission in the formal school. So I think there is a vicious circle where there's an admission test in the, when the child is entering class 1. And the admission test, and I've seen a lot of question papers, they actually make children write. They write answers. So I think parents also at that point of time, they are not wrong because they have to mainstream
Follow the
their
structure,
child.
right.
Yeah, so I think everybody has to be aligned as to what is right for the child.
Yeah. You want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that why parents also feel that play is a waste of time and we are investing so much, in the fee, and the child is spending so much time at school, yet, he's just going there to play. Now, we also need to understand that at the end of the day, there are skills which are also required to be taught, even with the younger children. And play also must have learning intentions. And that's why I said that play is not everybody's game. Teachers need a lot of training that how do you bring the best intentions out of play. Also, I think with the early years, they cannot be a cookie cutter format. Because when we are talking about each child is unique, each child is rich, capable, then there could be children in nursery for that matter who can write, who are coming from a background where they are more developed in terms of their skills. So why should we not introduce symbolic explorations or expressions to them? Why should be they doing what the expectation we have set as a school? Which means that the child will lose interest. And that's why, teachers feel that, children are, the behavior is very disruptive because they are not occupied meaningfully. We are not challenging them.
Okay, there's an announcement, I guess.
This is what I wanted to
So
express.
we get one more thought there. Okay, I'll come to you after this. You want to add something to this, or we're done? Let me start my next question with you, Ms. Sharma. You know, this is a common question because this is, I want an answer. I want to hear from everyone on this as well. You know, in an age of screens and structured activities, I mean, we are just bombarded with all sorts of screens. How can schools preserve the essence of unstructured, imaginative play, according to you? We can start with this.
Thank you for that question, sir. Now, when we are saying structured play or unstructured play, we have to understand the clear difference first. Screen time is something which we have to ensure that the young children, as young as 3 and 4 and 5, have to be away with. Now, this can happen with different ways, especially in schools. We can have role plays which are brought into structure. We can have storytelling very strongly because it has all lines of action which are required, but it has to be practiced and demonstrated in the very effective and engaging manner. Next is by involving students in presenting anything like, let me take an anecdote. I think that will help all of us understand things better. When we are bringing a structure into the room, for example, children are asked, 4+, I'm talking about the age 4+, children are asked, okay, let's make a tower which is of your height. A tower which is taller than me, rather. And a group of 4 students are given the blocks. Now, play. Now, we have to create something out of what is given. We see something which is concrete. We're not talking about anything abstract. And a comparative structure has been given that you have to create something which is taller than yourself. Now, this brings in collaboration. Children learn teamwork, respect for each other, and somehow or the other that inquiry-based learning is coming in. If I'm creating a tower as tall as me, if we put a square block on another square block and so on as tall as myself, it might fall because the foundation is not strong. So another one gives an input, okay, let's join 4 at the base and then build a tower. They see a structure, so it is concrete learning that is coming in. There is nothing which is abstract. So with as young as 4 years that we are talking about, 5 years that we are talking about, it is very important that we have concrete learning happening, learning by seeing what is around, by taking the feel, by touching it, by observing, by involving. If we are talking things in abstract, because what they see on screen is something which is imaginative, something which is a little away from realistic. So we have to bring back the play, that the play doesn't go, but the learning happens in parallel.
Right. You know, I've seen kids having such regiments, you know, I mean, it's too hectic for them. I mean, they're small kids and they have to deal with it. Ms. Bhimwal, to you, do you feel we are exposing kids to an overly structured environment and we need to kind of balance it with something more imaginative?
Connect your previous question of screen time with this question. Now, you know, how different is, you know, if a child is given a screen to do something and a child is given an activity, okay, that you make something, you know, in class, which is an activity that the child is doing something. Now again, to me, both have no meaning and no relevance. It's a complete waste of time because you're only serving, but there is no return. And the brain learns best when there is a serve and a return interaction. So even screen time, for that matter, now there is AI available, and the earliest teachers who are available, you know, who have access to technology, they can use AI when they're going out for a nature walk and they see an insect. And then you use AI, okay, let's see which insect it is. Now, that's meaningful use of screen time. But an activity where there is no serve and return and it's done and dusted, it's one-time engagement, again has no relevance and you have not learned anything, but you're done hands-on. But what's next? So we in school, we focus more on engagements rather than activities. Activities are one time, done and dusted. There is no follow-up, there is no progression, there is no link. And engagement is something which involves dialogues. When the child is doing something, you are in constant dialogue with the child. And that's why we said the teacher has to be present around the engagement whenever the child is engaged with, because you're trying to map the progression. You are having a constant dialogue for the child to move up, because you have to move the child from the child what he knows to what he doesn't know. And that's where your role comes in as a teacher who's doing the right intervention and scaffolding at the right time before the moment is lost. So my take on the screen time is a little different. I am not advocating screen time, but I'm just saying that if there's a serve and return interaction, even with 30 minutes of screen time where you're learning something, you're engaged with something, there's a constant dialogue with something, there's a lot of takeaway. And there's a research which has been recently done that there is a myth that screen time is very detrimental, but how much, for what, is something that schools need to really, really think about a little more deeply.
I want to bring in Ms. Bahuguna and then your thoughts, and then there will be individual questions. Yes.
Yeah, so I kind of do, take it forward from there, the screen time, and also for which age? Like, we are talking about preschoolers, where I think the human connect, human intervention is far more required than, and screens can be used for simulation, stimulation, excitement, because we know that this age, and when we are talking about generation alpha, generation beta, they have very short attention span. To keep the child engaged in any kind of a focused activity, it takes a lot from the teacher to create materials and to be able to engage the child's attention. And engagement is active learning. It's like where the child is fully involved. And when we talk about structured and unstructured play, I feel maybe because we are dealing with large number of schools, that even an unstructured play is actually a structured play. Because the teacher knows, the educator knows what is the boundaries you're giving the child. Because there's nothing that the child will do without any objective, without any focus. So whatever flexibility is
Seemingly
given,
unstructured, but it's not unstructured.
yeah, it seems unstructured, but there's a lot of structure. And there's a lot of training, and there's a lot of sensitization that goes behind creating that opportunity.
Right.
We run close to 1,040 centers from Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune to a small town outside Patna or Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, right? नहीं डिजिटल नहीं है तो आपके यहाँ पे एडमिशन तो नहीं हो रहा है. You need to think about that part also, and I believe into that part. Both my colleagues have small different views, and even we think that we should train properly the school owners, those who are running schools into this rural part, कि use करो कितना करना है कैसे करना है. If that is done at the right time, with the right duration, with the right learning ability, expectations, आप कोई गुनाह नहीं है. Think about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. We have changed ourselves. Coming AI into picture, till the time that digital screen is not a video, till the time it is not a one-way communication, till the time the child doesn't have a gadget in hand or a remote in hand, this is okay. So that is that part of areas, that part of schools, that part of parent, which I show them and take admissions also. And there are set of parents in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune, where we say that no screen time, because they do understand that part also. So it is very, I'll say, as a geographical areas, understanding to parents, in terms of a business understanding to admission lena hai ki nahi lena hai, you have to be very comfortable making people understand, and it goes with your thought process also. इस नहीं कि आप वीडियो लगा के बैठ गए और टीचर इज जस्ट सिटिंग क्वाइट, नो. So that is
So I'd
same
like to
thing
just
from my
add
side.
that completely agree with it, that it has to be judiciously. It has to supplement the learning. So what is it that we want? We can use technology, we can use resources to our advantage, but not just.
Yeah, definitely I would like to add on to it. So yes, as I have heard different opinions and I agree to some and some I would change a bit. Yes, screen in the hands of educators is definitely a facilitator. It definitely enables them more to educate a child, but screen at the hands of preschoolers are not good and at their homes. That's what I mean about less screen time, because the kind of students we get at school, the kind of their thought process, look, learning requires patience, any kind of learning, whether it be learning your alphabets, learning your writing, or even physical activity, dance, any kind of it requires patience. And the first thing that screen does is like there is a constant change of sight, sound, and emotional stimuli on the phone. And now the child is addicted to change. A child refuses to be in that environment where constantly they have to practice something to achieve it or to better it. So that's my point. Now coming to the next part of it, this was in context of school. Now I'm coming in context of the behavioral pattern of a child. Trust me, I have seen such cases as one of my child speaking in the Coco Melon language. She would speak some unique language. We would get one sentence in between like wash, wash, wash your hair. These shows are highly addictive. Here I'm not talking in respect to school. I'm talking more in respect to parents, how they have to reduce. I again one had a child that was the most, I would say, something shocking incident that I came across. A senior kindergarten girl would always, like, almost hold a child, another child of kindergarten, a boy, forcibly, just hold, hug. And the teacher and everybody tried explaining her not to do it, and she would still, like, given, like, in a moment, she would still do it. So teacher told me to call the parents and talk to them. I said, before that, I really need to talk to my child. So I brought her to office, made her comfortable, and then I asked her, why do you do it? When she was comfortable playing with me, she said, because I need to marry. I need to start a family, like you have your family, like you're married, all the teachers are married, and now I have to start early. And I was shocked. This wasn't an answer that I was expecting from a senior kindergarten teacher, student. And I was like, where did you learn all this from? And her answer was YouTube. They show that you have to marry, you have to have kids. And she also said, my parents will be grandparents. See, actually, I have that video is still on my phone because that could be so shocking. Now, we all of us, most of us sitting here, are you all must be from tier 1, tier 2 cities. Now let me take you a little, like, step back. Let's go to the villages. I come from a small town. I visit my local native places too very frequently. And you would not believe the parents have pride in their voice. They say, जितना आप नहीं जानती होंगी phone चलाना, उतना मेरा grandson जानता है. This is a pride. They are talking about a child who for last 5 hours I have seen is on the phone. He is fed while watching phone. He is like not interacting, not talking. Somehow the kids are missing the social skills. They are missing the physical development. You see the child, the moment
Final comment.
yeah,
Yes,
sure.
sir.
The final comment would be when a parent comes to me for admission and says, "Ma'am, बोलता नहीं है, needs to start speaking." I said, क्या ये phone बहुत use करता है घर में? हाँ, ma'am, वो तो. So this is what phone does to you. It entertains the child in such a complete manner that the child is reluctant to be part of this world.
Great. That's a great example there. Some real cases. Ms. Bhimwal, I want to bring you here. How do you train and empower teachers to act as facilitators rather than instructors?
This stems from your own belief about what learning environment should look like in a classroom. Now, teachers definitely, there is and I'm sure everybody is aware of the Reggio philosophy of the image of the child. That every teacher, firstly, should see the child as a rich and a capable child. Rich, not monetary, but rich in potential. So So the minute you start looking at that child as an individual with potential, your relationship with the child is going to change. It's going to be a relationship of respect, and it's going to be a relationship of trust, which means that you're not looking at yourself as a fountain of knowledge and the child coming with a clean slate, but you're looking at a child who's bringing in a lot of rich experience to your classroom, which you need to tap, and your facilitation should tap that energy, that ability, and the capability that the child is bringing to your class. So I think the first step for an effective facilitation is that how well do you know the child and the family? Because that's your next level to build your learning experiences around the richness that the child is bringing to your class. Like I said, that there could be a child who's a very proficient reader but is coming in nursery because he's exposed to a lot of reading at home. And so the facilitation will differ as per the child's need. And so that's how the teachers need to be trained into cultural sensitivities, you know, social, emotional competence, which
There's
is all
training
about
given to them, right?
Absolutely. And these are all variabilities to learning. Now, there could be a child who's very scared of loud noises because, you know, I'm not saying it because in Indian context, a lot of people, you know, speak very loudly. And there could be children who are very intimidated with loud voices. And they switch off because the teacher is very loud. Now, this is also variability because
very nuanced.
Yes. That your body language, your gestures, your tone has to be suitable for all kind of variabilities. And so facilitation entails a lot of things. It requires a lot of behavioral change. It requires a very different mindset, which is progressive for a teacher, which is again informed by research and literature on childhood education. So it
Right.
varies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ms. Bahuguna, a lot of people watching us, there are teachers in the room as well. Give me some points on how can teachers effectively nurture curiosity among young learners. What are some practical things you would like to share?
We have reworked on our curriculum, which had been there for last 16 years, and it was completely aligned to NEP. So a couple of things that we introduced, and it was like an action research. We introduced STEAM for early learners. We introduced financial literacy for early learners. We introduced some reading programs and SDGs, concepts which were not heard of. And we also wanted to see how our teachers are able to apply it in the classroom. And so for 1 year, we implemented. And later, we realized that STEAM is something because where children are doing experiments. Otherwise, generally the mindset is that you can only introduce in class 3 or class 4, later when the children go to schools. We realize that the children are very aware. They are seeing things happening around. So it's not their incapability, it is our expectation from our children. What is it that we can, and we wanted to experiment. And we realized that children actually and there was no learning objective. The learning objective was that you make the children do experiments and then just help them see that excitement, that curiosity, let them ask questions. There's no right or wrong question. And so this entire, those simple things like you're creating snow out of, you're mixing some solvents and... Yeah, okay. And then simple things like we give them, instead of telling them what is a concept of sink and float, we tell them, okay, what do you think? There are so many objects over here. What do you think will go down when you're going to put it in water? What do you think will stay up? So they make hypotheses. They use those objects, they try, they experiment, and then they come to a general consensus that things which have gone down are actually, and the teacher doesn't tell them. Otherwise, earlier what used to happen, the teacher would give them the concept and then make them do some activities around that concept. Now it is the reverse order, where we make children observe, hypothesize, observe, experiment, analyze, and then come to a conclusion. So these are simple, simple activities. They go around, they say, okay, how do you think a seed, what happens to the seed? Then they go and do that experiment in the class with the teacher and observe. So what we realize that this curiosity is the core for learning. Our vision statement is that we want our children to become lifelong learners. And in order to make them lifelong learners, we need to instill this seed of curiosity, where they are forever looking around, observing, and asking questions. So it has been like financial literacy, and all those have been these are not big concepts, but these are small activities that they do and that the teacher facilitates around, So teachers are also given guidance as to how they need to scaffold the learning for the children.
Sure.
I'll add to this a small this thing. I think we all are in terms of working on a daily basis with a preschooler. How many of you?
To give the mic closer
How many
to
of
the
you
ones at the
here
back.
really work with preschoolers on an everyday basis? Anyone? No, it's like a school.
Here,
Okay,
there are some, yes.
few of them. Let me take back to you to relate the same thing what Mrs. Bahuguna talked about. Friends, understand how much time I as an educator, facilitator, teacher have it for that particular child in a year's time. And that is the expectation of parents, and that is your learning outcome you are working for. 365 days is 1 year. Your academic year is 10 months. Coming back to holidays and Saturdays and Sundays, we left out with 150 to 180 days, which is half of the year. Out of 150, 180 days of school operations, a child is absent for around 20-25% of the days. So the child comes to a school for 150 to almost like, let's say, 130 to 150 days. Out of 150 days, you still have celebrations. This Jayanti, that Jayanti, this day, that day, green day, blue day, whatever it is. Birthday also, play area, play time, food times, and PTM also happens during the same days. A child comes for 2 hours to a preschool, a standard preschool, let's say. Out of that, you spend 3 weeks for assessment also in a year. Take out that days also. Trust me, friends, the child, when we are talking about a group discussion, he's left out with 100 hours in a year. If it's not a group, it is 30 hours you come back, 30 to 50. Let me complete. Friends, hardly we have many time with the children in the class. That is how the teacher's training is important to that. That is how within that span of that 30 minutes or 30 hours or 100 hours, you have to bring that curiosity to understand that I am able to reach to my learning goals. आप बहुत scientific तरीका लेके आओगे वो नहीं चलेगा. Let him play, let him have that environment, let us understand your learning goals and do whatever the base you can do as per the parent present in rural, urban and semi-urban.
Okay, just a
So
short
let
comment.
me-
I want to bring in Ms. Sharma after that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, so your calculation, in fact, we've just completed the curriculum, so we are ready with our numbers. It is very tough. If you are not giving 3.5 hours to a preschooler in the school, 2 hours could be for DR, where you have 2 to 3 years.
I'm calculating coming into the school, going out of the school,
Whatever, the
doing
academic
lunch and
learning
all. I'm
time.
talking about learning 2 hours of
All right,
time.
we can take this offline.
Yeah, we can
and
take
it.
right,
2 hours
let
of
me bring in
learning
Ms.
time.
Sharma here. What are some of the common misconceptions about play-based learning practices that you have kind of heard from parents? They have some misconceptions.
I think Sir has mentioned that beautifully. I must really appreciate, because these are pain points that we face, yet we have to come into the brackets of the right outcomes being achieved. First and foremost, I want to point out that the parents' expectations that after the end of this particular academic session, my child should be able to read and write. We have to understand that individual learning curves vary, especially in the early years. So if a child has completed preschool or maybe pre-primary, you will find that every child is not able to achieve that certain benchmark. It has to be individualized. And differentiated instruction strategy has to be followed in the early years. Small group who is able to pick early practices differently. A child who is a little late at pickup does not mean that the child will not. We have to give the right cognitive skills using alternate mechanisms. Not that the child has not understood or the child is not practicing, so repeating is going to help. We have to pick up alternate mechanisms for the child to learn and adapt. So that will bring in the curve, which is very different. But here, bringing parents into role is very important. Until and unless the parents of this young age group understands that every child is not equal, they will not learn with equal pace, but yes, after a certain span of time, maybe when we are talking about the foundational years, they will achieve those benchmarks. Another very important factor, the way the assessments are on, even with those young preschoolers, worksheets as assessments, those should not be. We must always look into following something like a formative assessment where the progression of each child is measured. And that is through observation mostly. Suppose if we are maybe it is an activity, maybe it is a role play, maybe it is a participation, whichever way, but again, through observation, through seeing how the child is interacting, how the child is engaging, the child's progress can be benchmarked. So that is the role of the teacher as a facilitator, because there it is not direct instructions which are given and are being followed by the young out here, rather it is how they are asking questions, how much is their cognitive skill graded has to be identified, and for this, yes, lot of teacher training is required, because when we are handling this age group, if the right kind of training, because from converting, from changing ourselves from a teacher to a facilitator, from being on the side, and how are we taking up the child, how are we understanding that each child of our class, it much depends on how a teacher is trained, how the culture of the school is developed. That is very important. Last, one more thing. I think the misconception of parents, when I said formative assessments is how we have to look into no worksheet assessments, everybody has to be graded. Next, like I said, yes, reading, writing will not be able to develop immediately in the same line for everybody. Just one more, where the parents believe that the children will not understand what we say. Children pick up languages very quickly in this early age. NEP says multilingualism, mother tongue being promoted, and in parallel, parents come back. Will the child be able to understand English, Hindi, and a mother tongue, 3 languages at this age? But children pick up very fast. And this is the right age to strike upon, because we wait that the children will not understand and we start giving instructions in the other language also. So that is another misconception with the parents express with this early age group.
Right. I want to bring in, I have a question for both of you, slightly different. It fits in your context. How can we make play-based pedagogy effective in smaller towns or low-income, low-resource educational settings?
Way back in 2005, when I started my first preschool, 2009 when we started the franchising, going back to small towns and villages, you cannot explain a parent in rural to say that this is a play-based school without giving some academics part of it. So at that point of time, we have used a concept of Montessori, and we have used a lot of toys in the form of learning. And when we used to launch that school in that particular small village or a town, we used to call parents to have a demo session to understand how with these toys, we will be able to give that learning to that child. Maybe what he was trying to explain you that how to hold a pencil also have lot of toys to use on the Montessori system, how to make a standing line, sleeping line, and without paper and pen, how with the finger itself, right? You are using a sand or you are using a dough to make them write, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of explanation were required in 2009. I'm talking about almost 16 years back, and even that is still prevailing into small towns and villages. So you have to go beyond, as we train our teachers on the understanding the learning outcome, the same way you have to train the parents to understand that play way, this is the way of play way learning. So it is really tough. And urban, I think the people have started understanding this importance of preschool.
Yeah, so yes, as he said, and I would elaborate on the same point, that it is tough. No doubt it is tough every day explaining to the parents that why am I doing a certain activity and what are the learning outcomes. Somehow it's not about that week or that month the parent will accept your idea. It almost sometimes takes a year, or even after moving to some other school, they realize the behavioral, the cognitive or the imaginative outcomes that they have seen in the play-based school versus in other schools. And that makes them appreciate. And moreover, I would say, yes, counseling of parents is required. Like I'll say, I do an activity where when I'm teaching fruits and vegetables, I have a big basket of fruits, everything that's available in the market. And at the end of the week, on Friday is a fruit seller where we give counterfeit money to the child. They pretend and play to buy the fruits and which fruit is costly and why is it costly and how even fruit comes to our plate. So when I teach them the process, look, somebody grew it, the farmers grew it, the vendors got it to the market, your parents bought it, somebody chopped it for you and gave it to you. The moment you trash it in the garbage bin, you are wasting the entire process behind that. And that the kids learn, that they understand. They share it with their parents, these stories. Why save electricity? Why save water? Why not waste food? So that is the time when parent appreciates the effort made by the school, which ma'am said, like how much thinking goes into it. It seems like a playing, but trust me, it takes a lot more effort. Academic is a very, very individual thing. It's a one-to-one process between the teacher and the child, which involves books and notebooks. It's easier that you can sit with a child for 1.5 hours, make them learn ABCD. But trust me, organizing these play activities are way more tougher and the outcomes are way better.
We had a wonderful discussion, and it could go on. There's so much to talk about, but we're short on time. But thank you for sharing your thoughts on this, and over to you.